Hi, this is Billie Beene here with another segment of U.S. News by Billie, episode 3, new. This is my third YouTube channel. I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen. Thanks for like, subscribe, and share on YouTube and Rumble. Today's date, April 1, 2023. JFK Jr. plus Jim Willie believe that the U.S. banks are safe. So we'll get to it. President Trump arrest, and the Iron Dome has been put in place on both the East Coast and West Coast. So let's get started. Some of my sources are God in the Bible, Patriot Subscriber, the late Kirsten W., Gene Decode, Israeli News Live, Pastor Paul Begley, and Mike from around the world, Greg Monorino. Beforeitsnews, an interview of Jim Willie by N17, Beston Taylor, SG, Hal Turner. So let's get started. Okay. Many of you perhaps didn't realize that JFK Jr. is still alive and wasn't killed in the 1999 plane crash that was arranged and handled by the U.S. Navy. So we'll get to it. Okay. First of all, we'll cover Pastor Paul Begley. He had a recent interview with Mike from around the world. Now, Mike had a dream in 2013, and about an individual on stone steps, and he would walk down, and there would be ripple effects across the U.S. of many strong emotions of fear and hate and panic and so on. And so recently Mike revealed that that was President Trump he dreamed of in 2013. So, yeah, that's going on. And we know President Trump in his first term was elected in 2016. Yeah. So from this, Mike from around the world believes that it's possible that these ripple effects across the U.S. could take place. Also, we understand or we're hearing that our U.S. banks are about to fail. I believe I have some new information about that. And Mike from around the world's also putting forth, and I've been seeing this as a trend across many genres, AI. Yeah, so that's going on. Now we'll talk about President Trump's arrest. Okay, so President Trump has not yet been arrested. He had the indictment come out. Actually, it was just leaked from the New York District Attorney, that's Alvin Bragg, who was put in place with a $1 million contribution from the Soros Foundation with the mandate Get Trump. So this happened on Thursday, and Friday, I mean, we would have thought we would have had something formal. Well, President Trump's attorneys say they have yet to receive any kind of paperwork. So we're hearing there was an indictment, 34 counts. It's in the New York, Manhattan, a district attorney's office by District Attorney Alvin Bragg. And now we have some more information coming out. And this is coming out from SG, that all this alleged indictment of President Trump and potential future arrest is a U.S. military operation by the White Hats. And that President Trump in 2017 on his global tour was setting pieces in place for a new economic system, Nasara Jassara. And so we have 34 counts, allegedly in a sealed indictment of business fraud plus. And President Trump came out and made this statement that the thugs are of the radical Democrats and the radical left are trying to indict the individual, President Trump, who's going to be running on the Republican presidential ticket in 2024. And the DOJ has been politicized and is being used as a weapon. Now we have this, that the judge who's involved in these 34 counts is named Juan Marshan, and he was picked by the district attorney Alvin Bragg, and he's the same judge who was in charge of President Trump's 75-year-old CFO being strong-armed in court last year. So yeah, pick your judges, the ones you know you can count on to render judgments and to do anything that you tell them to do. Who goes by the Constitution or laws anymore? Okay, so now, the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, wanted President Trump to surrender in New York on Friday, even though the District Attorney's Office has yet to put out any paperwork nor make a formal statement. Ding! President Trump's Secret Service said no. Now, Governor DeSantis of Florida says he's not going to be involved in an extradition of President Trump from Florida to New York. Now, I think this name, we need to pay attention to this name, and I'll be doing some research because in the past I've heard some things about this guy, Mayor Haas, and he's in charge, I believe, of Homeland Security. And he's the boss of Secret Service. I think he's very close to certain individuals who are orchestrating this trumped up charges against President Trump. So yeah, now we have this. The grand jury in New York has been gone for a month, and President Trump's attorneys have not seen any paperwork. So it's being assessed by the White House now as some type of diversion by the deep state. So we'll see what goes on. Now, allegedly, President Trump is supposed to be in New York next Tuesday, April 4. We'll see how this goes. Okay, we have SG bringing out some information about World War III being put in place by the deep state. And part of President Trump's indictment is a diversionary track by the deep state from war and also the banks. So that's going on. And they want to really juice up and panic the American people. And we know with regard to the banks, the deep state wants to put in place digital money and a social credit score. Not going to happen. We recall at least 250 million Americans have security devices, and 100 million are organized into militias. We're not putting up with that. Now, Greg Monorino, a economist, has said, he's talking about the whole world economy, and I'll address Project Sandman shortly. All right, so we have this. On March 19, Gregory Monorino is saying this: the Federal Reserve, and this is supposedly headed up by Janet Marino, but I believe she's a avatar for the deep state. This also involves the U.S. Treasury, because these were combined, I think, last year. That the U.S. Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department wanted to coordinate a supply of liquidity globally for the Bank of Canada, the U.S. Federal Reserve, the Bank of Switzerland, the Bank of England, the Bank of Japan, the European Central Bank, and the Swiss National Reserve. Let's see how this is playing out globally with these banks and what's going on. And I believe for the American people, we have some good news for the stability of the U.S. banks. Okay, we have Larry Taylor coming out with this. This is a rumor, but he has good sources. For martial law to be put in place April 2nd, and April 1, that's today, to begin some type of bank situation. But nothing's going on with our banks. And he also was hearing maybe in mid-April we would have a bank holiday for a week. I submit to you, these are rumors, and I believe they're going to be going away, because I believe the U.S. banks are going to be receiving some large deposits that are going to shore up their liquidity. Okay, now we have this from Besson Taylor and Hal Turner. Bittrex is a global or European-based crypto company, and it's saying to its U.S. depositors who are using U.S. dollars, you need to close and move your crypto out of Bittrex, and you need to do this by April 30. And they made several statements about, two statements about the instability of the U.S. banks. But I believe we'll be able to clarify that a little bit later in this presentation. Okay. Now, Mike from Around the World is also talking about AI. And how does that play into banks and stock market? Well, there are many systems that are in place, but Mike is also bringing out that there's AI inside the U.S. and globally in many nations is active in defense systems. So that's something to take note of and to research, to get some more information on that. Okay. Now, Besson Taylor is bringing this out, and I've been hearing this from multiple sources: Gene Decode, the late Kirsten W., Dave Hodges, Israeli News Live, Stephen Banoon. This is about, we would call them CHICOMs, Chinese troops, on our borders, north from Canada, and also south from Mexico. Now, there have been recent statements and information coming out. Monkey Works has been documenting for close to a year so-called immigrants coming across the border, but they're not women or children. They are military-age men, and they are believed to be part of CCP and the Chinese, and also CIA South America trained individuals. And then certain parts of the U.S. military will take these individuals and fly them all over the U.S. Yeah. So that's going on and coming up. Now we'll talk about this. This is coming out from Jim Willie, and he had information. Jim Willie's a PhD economist from Costa Rica, and he had information from JFK Jr. Now, it was, we recall, in 1963, the assassination of JFK Jr.'s father, President Kennedy. And I recall watching the beautiful Jacqueline Kennedy, the mother of JFK Jr., on a plane from Dallas going back to Washington, D.C., with the blood of her young husband on her pink suit. And she was standing back and then being sworn in as the next president, Johnson. And we have to believe that Johnson most likely was part of this scheme and knew about it. In the future, we'll have to be able to look at history and real documents and research to know the individuals who were actually responsible for the assassination of President Kennedy and those who were just strong-armed and forced to go along with it. Oh, we'll kill your wife, we'll kill your children, and so on. So we'll have to look at that. So that happened in 1963. It's believed that this alliance, Earth Alliance, also called the White Hats, coalesced about this time because I assure you, there were tens of millions of American citizens who understood clearly the enemy of the American people is inside our gates, and it's definitely associated with our government. And that was in 1963. So the White Hats have been, and with the military and many generals, have been actively pursuing taking back America and also other nations around the world. This is a global event, and that's going on. So at any rate, Jim Willie is receiving information from JFK JFK Jr., who definitely is on the inside track. Now, this has to do with Project Sandman. And Jim Willie presents this as a very real nightmare threat by the BRICS nations, and that would be China, Russia, India, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, now Mexico, Cuba. Okay. For 30 to 50 of the nations are involved in, I think it's somewhere around 180 nations right now. So for 30 to 40 to 50 of the nations in a 24-hour period to sell $2 trillion of treasury bonds, and that would be to crash the U.S. stock market. So the BRICS nations are saying to the deep state, this is a very real and present danger to you. Now, what's going on is these nations want to launch their own currency that's gold-backed, and of course the deep state is still trying to maintain the U.S. dollar as a currency on a global basis. It's just not working. So what we do have is that, according to Jim Willie, this Sandman Project's been put on hold by the cabal. Yeah, they don't want to sabotage all of their banks and the stock market, because if the U.S. stock market crashed, then the banks would likely go down. Now, this is the good news, that Jim Willie's bringing this out about, we don't hear anything and haven't heard anything for a couple of years from the London banks, Barclays, Lloyds, Royal Bank of Scotland. So, yeah. So Sandman is on the table and hasn't been used yet. Now, one thing we are hearing is that there are also, Jim Willie's bringing this out, and he's getting this information from JFK Jr. There are 20 U.S. cities, unidentified, 20 U.S. cities that have CCP Container spotted in the cities that have nukes in them. Now, Israeli News Live Stephen Banoun came out with this like last year about these containers coming in the different ports around the U.S. and that the U.S. military was tracking them down and using devices to look inside them because they were coming in with nukes. And Stephen had a video and showed, like, you would have the container, well, the lid could go up, and then what comes out is a weapon that can launch a nuke now, according to Jim Willie. But this is new information to me that came out from N17. We have the Iron Dome now in place on both the west and east coast of the U.S. And the Iron Dome was designed and put together by Rafael Advanced Defense Systems and the government of Israel years ago. It's an all-weather mobile air defense system. And I had not heard that we had that operating on our coast. So this is new information. Now let's get to the U.S. banks. And this is also information coming out from Jim Willie via JFK Jr. That we have in Europe, we saw the Swiss bank go down, and then we saw it was going to be bought by another bank in Switzerland, UBS. But now we understand there's a question, and it's believed there's no gold deposits now in Switzerland. They've all been taken away. So the Swiss and the UBS, hey. We also have the French bank, and we have the German bank. Also, we understand all going down. And so this is the news that's coming out, that these European depositors are going to move their money to the large U.S. banks, and they are currently moving it right now because in Europe there's no FDIC. Now, we heard from Canadian Prepper that inside Canada they had something like FDIC for accounts up to $100,000, and we know in the U.S. we have each certain accounts up to $250,000. I believe that's for a depositor per bank. Okay, so this is the good news. Right now, these European depositors are moving their money as fast as they can. And I think Jim said they'd already moved like $1 trillion to U.S. banks. Well, that'll be good because we understand that U.S. citizens had withdrawn about $1 trillion from their banks because they're being scared. But this is the situation. Now, these depositors are moving billions and dollars. So they're going to the large banks. So that leaves the small regional banks who are well managed and are plenty liquid with solid deposits from American citizens. These banks are safe. And now the large banks will also be shored up with a tremendous influx of liquidity flowing from the European banks. Now, the European banks are going to be forced. We believe this looks as if it could be a coordinated move by the White Hats, drain the European banks of money, put it in the U.S. banks. Then Europe will be primed, won't it, to go into the BRICS. So that's going on. And so we have, many things going on. Okay, now a short prayer. So in summary, we have the Iron Dome defense system on our west and east coast. Now, and 20 nukes apparently in our 20 U.S. cities. Do I believe that situation is real? Apparently, there are multiple sources for it. Who would be in charge of that? That would be God. And so we have a prayer, and our banks are safe. I found that to be very reassuring because I kept wondering, how's this going to work with the banks? And we also believe that soon, April and May or so, this Nasara-Jassara new economic system is going to come online. I've had many sources for at least a year and a half talking about the new rainbow currency is currently inside our U.S. banks. So it's good. Here's the prayer for America I'll be using for this U.S. news segments. It's based on America the Beautiful, written by Bates and Ward. One wrote the music and the other one wrote the lyrics, but I'm just using it as a basis. America, may our skies remain forever clear and blue. May amber waves of grain ever fill our plains. May pilgrim feet ever seek our shores, to walk in a land of freedom by constitution, of liberty by law, of grace by blessing from God. And we say, God bless America, beautiful place of patriot dreams and a brotherhood from sea to shining sea. And we thank you, God the Father, God the Son, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, and God the Holy Spirit. And I say to my family and friends, remain steady out there, continue to pray. God is in charge and He is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.